Hi guys, hope you're having a good Tuesday so far. Happy Spirit Day. Woo! St. Francis and Dowling Catholic. This is Tuesday and we are going to start on lesson 7-6 for math. I received your copies of your answers for Study Link 7.5 and I'm going to start working through those this week and giving you feedback on what you have correct and what you may need work on. So be looking for me to return that to your assignment. Today, I asked you in the teaching of the lesson part to work on the math message. And I said, list 2 ways that you can record data. I'm hoping that you put a bar graph or you put a picture or pie chart. We also have made tally charts. We've also made stem and leaf plots. So all of those are good ways that you can record data. What we're going to work on today, our target learning, is going to be line graphs. But before we get started with line graphs, we're going to work on our mental math and reflexes. So if you could please put your mental math and reflexes in your spiral. Today's lesson is 7-6. The date is 5/12/20. And the MMR is mental math and reflexes. The first problem that I want us to solve and review is 3/12 plus 3/12. So you have the same denominator that you need to add the numbers together. So when you do that, you add 3/12 plus 3/12, you get 6/12. Ooh, that's not very dark. I better throw that away and get something else. Sorry about that. So when you add 3/12 plus 3/12, you get 6/12. Remember, we always add the numerators and we leave the denominators the same because we're leaving the pieces of the sizes the same. So if you look at 6/12, you see, is there a number that will go both into 6 and 12 that will reduce it to lowest terms? 6 divided by 6 and 12 divided by 6. Whatever I do to the top of the equation, I need to do to the bottom of the equation. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So 6/12 also equals 1/2 in lowest terms. The second problem that I have on the board are improper fractions, and that's okay until we get to the final answer, and then it's no longer okay unless it tells you to do that. So if I have 36/9 minus 18/9, you'll notice that the ninths and the ninths are the same, which means that we already have a common denominator. We just need to do the work up in the numerator. Since it's subtraction, we're going to take 36 minus 18. If you had to come over and do that so that you would know by doing the trading and it would break it down for you a little bit easier, you'll see that it's 18/9. Now, because the numerator is larger than the denominator, that is not in simplest terms. So we need to turn this into a proper fraction or a proper whole number, and fraction or just a proper whole number. So we're going to see how many times does 9 go into 18 without going over. The answer is 2. 2 times 9 equals 18. Do we have anything left over then? No. There's 2 9s that pull from 18, so our answer is just 2 wholes. The last story problem that I have here is, or number problem, is 14/4 plus 6/4 plus 5/4. You'll notice that we have a common denominator of fourths, so we can go ahead and work with the numerators. We don't need to find any equivalent fractions. So we're going to add 14 plus 6 equals 20, plus 5 equals 25. 25/4. Now we need to put this into proper terms because the numerator is larger than the denominator. That is considered improper. 4 goes into 25 how many times without going over? 6 times. 6 times 4 equals 24. So you have 1/4 left. So that final answer is 6 and 1/4 when you add all of these 3 fractions together. Again, you can always work with fractions that have larger numerators, but then when you finally get to the answers, you need to put them in proper notation. That's it for MMR right now. And now we're going to take a look at line graphs. Again, if you're in any type of business, the real world connection, if you're in any business, where you're looking at profit and you're looking at growth, you're looking at success or failures, you're looking at trends, say that you are thinking about being a musician, or you're looking at trends for fashion, you're looking at stocks and bonds, you're an investor. Any of those types of industries will use line graphs. So it's very important that you learn how to use those and how to create them properly. When you think about it now with technology, you're not going to necessarily be creating one on pencil and paper all the time. More than likely, you're going to be putting this into some sort of computer program for you to work on. But for right now, while we're stripping away the components of it, then you're going to be asked to write it out as we kind of would just longhand or by our hands. So I need you to open up your volume 2 to Math Journal page 226. At the top of this page, it says making line graphs. So we're just going to walk through this together because there's really no way for me to show this to you on the board. And normally on some of these pages, we'd be using your student reference book, but because you don't have that with you at home, then we're going to have to make do with this page and kind of tweak it that way. So it says line graphs are often used to show how something has changed over a period of time. I know that you're going to be starting to study weather with Mrs. Anderson, and you're going to be creating a line graph based on the temperatures. So this is a perfect example if you're in meteorology or you're studying weather, that you would be using line graphs to chart temperatures or to chart precipitation, any of the components of weather. So the following steps can be used to make a line graph from collected and organized data. So at the beginning, this big long rectangle that you see where it says temperatures at noon in degrees Fahrenheit, this is the information that they've collected. This is not considered the line graph. This is just a graph of information or a chart of information. This is not the line graph. The line graph is created underneath where it has the dots that are connecting the information together. It's not necessarily about the individual dot because we could have just created bar graphs for that, but it's talking about the trend that's happening between the dot and the dot. So let's say that I am talking to you about your fluency in reading, and I take your 3 one-minute passages and I take a data point, and then another week later I take another data point, and then another week later I take another data point. If you're looking at a trend and it's going upward, then that's considered an upward trend, which would be a good thing. Let's say that you're talking about late assignments though. If I took a data point and then you turned in another late assignment and you turned in another late assignment and I kept charting those over time, the going up isn't necessarily a good thing. So you need to be able to interpret the graph in order to understand what you're trying to read from the information. So they decide what's going on each axis. An axis is the up and down, the labeling on that side, just like we did with the bar graph, and then the axis on the bottom, what we're going to label that on the bottom. That way we can read and actually interpret what's going on in the line graph itself. So it says, decide what's going to go on. Usually the horizontal axis represents a unit of time, hours, days, months. The horizontal is when you're laying down. So that's the horizontal axis that they're talking about that you're labeling according to that. And the vertical axis represents the data unit, whatever you're trying to measure normally. So in this case, the temperature is going to go on this side because those are the numbers that are going to change. But then the days of the week are the ones that are going to be on the bottom because that already has a set pattern. So you're going to choose an appropriate scale. So sometimes you may start not at 0. You might start a little bit later. It just depends. And so it will depend if you want to go by 1s, or maybe you want to climb by 5s, or you want to climb by 10s. It depends. If you're using really large numbers, you're going to have a larger gap between the numbers that you're creating. So let's say that you're tracking population. You might want to hit a 0 at the bottom and then 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. Where if we're recording hours of TV being watched, maybe we start at 0, but we climb up by 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour. So it really does depend on the data, what you're going to label those increments in. So if you look over to the right, they have temperature in Fahrenheit over to the left, and they went up by 10, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then down at the bottom, they wrote days of the week, and they wrote Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then the title of it is in blue, and it's called Temperature at Noon. So they took all of that from the graph up above. So on Sunday, they, recorded the degrees, on Monday, and so on and so forth. At the very end, once you're done, then what you're supposed to do is connect each of the plot points to the next plot point that's next. So you are not just supposed to make any shape that you want. You're starting with the very first plot point and connecting it to the second plot point. If that happens to go down, then you're going to connect it going down. And if that happens to go up, you're going to connect it going up. And those are straight lines. It may seem kind of tedious, but it is much easier to read and look at a straight line than to look at you free drawing it or trying to just do it yourself. The points are very important to make them distinct, as well as the lines. So it's kind of a discipline to make sure that you're trying to do it as neatly as you can so it's easy for the reader to read. Again, will probably happen on a computer, but you need to have the logistics of it in your own mind before you can ever create it and label it correctly on a computer program. So this is when we're going to be doing a guided opportunity right now. And so this is the second set of data that they're talking about. It's problem number 1. It's got the rectangle information. It has a beginning of the grid chart that they're going to want you to try to label and create. So let's read it together. Rosita's class keeps a record of books borrowed from the class library. A different student keeps the record each week. During Rosita's week, she collected and organized the data in this table. Use her data to make a line graph. So the title of this line graph is going to be Books Borrowed from Class Library. So you need to put that at the very top of the chart. They have 2 labels that are going to either go on the horizontal axis or on the vertical axis, and one is days of the week and the other one is the number of books borrowed. So what is a more consistent piece of data, the days of the week or the number of books borrowed? The days of the week is the most consistent because it's the same measurement each day. So you're going to write days of the week down at the bottom. And then on the first line going up, not on the very first line that you see on the chart, but the next line, I want you to put an M underneath it. You're not putting them in the spaces, you're marking it actually on the line. So you're going to put an M for Monday, a TU on the next line for Tuesday, W for the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The reason why you want to put it on the line and you don't want to put it in the space is because we're not making a bar graph. So when the lines are coming down like this, you're going to be making points on these lines. So you're going to want the label to be right underneath the line. You're not going to be putting it into this because then we would have to put the dot in here, and we're not doing that. So let's say that this is Monday and this is Tuesday, and then you're going to use a straight edge to connect those dots. So see how Monday is represented by that line and Tuesday is represented by that line. So that's what I mean by putting them underneath the lines. Getting back to our example down at the bottom, it says that you are putting the days. So you put Monday through Friday because that's all the data that she collected. It's not a full week, but they don't have school on Saturday and Sunday, so that makes sense. On the left-hand side or on the vertical side, the other label that they have in that chart is the number of books or the number of books borrowed. Either way that you want to write that, that's completely fine. If we take a look at our data set, it's 10, 5, 4, 8, and 12. So we need to create numbers, again, that are going to be on those very lines in order for us to be correct. Sorry I'm moving around so much, but I want to make sure that you understand that when you're starting with the very bottom, you're going to start with this first line that's at the very bottom, and you're going to label that as 0. No matter if you go by hundreds, thousands, whatever, this very line means that you went nowhere. So if on Monday nobody borrowed any books, you would put that dot right there because that's what 0 means. And then the next line will be the next increment of whatever you decide it's going to be. Okay, but that bottom line is always 0. The first line that comes across over here, you don't use. It's the second line that you use to put your very beginning under. So it's kind of strange because this automatically means 0, but this you always have to go over by 1 in order to label it correctly. Okay? So because they are fairly small numbers, we're going to go ahead and label those by twos. So put 0 down at the first line, and then write in the next line 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and we'll just stop there. So on Monday, we're going to look at the chart and we're going to plot at 10. So wherever Monday and 10 meets, you need to put a dot or a plot. On Tuesday, it says that there are 5 books. Now you'll notice that you don't have a number 5, so you're going to have to plot on that line in between 4 and 6. That blue line, you're going to put a plot. On Wednesday, it says that they borrowed 4 books, so you're going to put a plot on Wednesday where 4 is. On the Thursday, it says that you have 8 books that are borrowed from the library, so plot the number 8. And on Friday, they borrowed 12 books, probably for the weekend, so plot where the 12 is. Now, right now, this is just a plot graph because there's no trending whether or not what's the lowest day, what's the highest day, or anything like that. So what you need to do now is turn it into a line graph. And you do that by taking a straight edge, and then you're connecting from Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, and Thursday to Friday, or whatever your label would have been, but that's what we're doing for here. So then we'll start asking questions that talk about trends. So when did the downward trend happen? Was it at the beginning of the week, the middle of the week, or the end of the week? Well, a downward trend means going down, and we see that Wednesday it falls at its lowest. So the trend looks like from Monday to Wednesday, it's going down. What is trending up? What seems to be the highest time that people start to check out books from the classroom library? At the end of the week, maybe when they're getting ready for the weekend, it looks like it's trending up. Again, it's just a trend. It's not an absolute exact science, but it can pretty much tell you based on the movement of it. So if you happen to watch the news and they'll show you the stock prices, stock markets, and sometimes when they're showing you over time what the stock market's done, right now the unemployment rate, at the very beginning of the pandemic, we were at a very low unemployment rate for the United States, but it has now trended up as we've gone through this pandemic, and it's about at 15%, I think was the last time I checked. So it went from 2 to 3% all the way up through 15. So you would see that line chart starting to trend upwards. So you would say that as we move through this pandemic, the trend of unemployment has gone up. And then scientists and people are studying why that's happening. Well, either people are getting sick or they're staying in place at home and they are not doing their jobs right now. Their jobs aren't needed because there are not people that are going out and using their services, so unemployment's going up. So scientists and people use different pieces of information. Historians do too, to see trends in certain things. So that's how you make a line graph. Page 227, if we had had our student reference book, then we could have worked on this. And some of you can access it online, some of you can't, and that's not any big deal. But I do want you to work on page lesson 7-6, and I want you to work on your math boxes and make a stem and leaf plot using the data that's down below and then figuring this out if you haven't already done this yet. I believe that we had a page like this before, so if you haven't gotten to this page, I'd like you to complete it. Calculating the sale price, remember, you need to take the price that it is and multiply it by the discount, which would be the percent. You would turn it into a decimal, so like 30% will be 0.30. And then to find the sale price, you need to subtract that amount from the regular price to get the sale price, okay? And I'm sure your parents will know how to do that if you need any help with that. The last thing that I want you to work on is study link 7-6. It will actually give you some more practice with the line graphs, and so that you can plot the information and create one. You're also going to interpret one at the very beginning. There's only 3 problems on there, so it shouldn't take you very long. So again, math boxes, page 228, and then I'd like you to work on your study link for page, for the actual assignment, sorry. Okay? I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks. Bye. Miss you.